Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast. It is that time of the week that we have a special guest with us. A special guest is the 2024 sixth-round draft pick by the Cincinnati Reds from Davidson College, who had a fantastic start of the season, earning him the Florida State League Player of the Month in April. Be a friend, tell a friend. Jacob Friend has joined us on the show today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
How you doing? How's life?
We're doing great right now. We're in the middle of a 2-week road trip here in Jupiter, so we had the off day. Hanging out in a hotel. I think some guys went golfing, probably got rained out, but just hanging out, waiting for week 2 down here.
Awesome. That's great. We really appreciate you joining us. Yeah, you've had a fantastic month. We're really glad to talk to you and figure out some things about you and hopefully can withstand. We're going to have some serious questions, some silly questions, and maybe even a rapid fire if we've got time for that. But we usually start every interview with this one question, and you can take it either way. What is your first baseball memory or your favorite baseball memory?
First baseball memory? Probably wasn't till I'd moved to DC when I was 11. So I guess first baseball memory was the first thing I ever did after I moved was go to a baseball practice with one of my high school teammates who's now with the Rays. So that was probably the first memory I have. Best baseball memory on the field, best baseball memory so far has been probably something in college. I don't know, man. The end of my sophomore year of college was a ton of fun. All the stupid stuff you do in college baseball off the field with like the team aspect is probably the greatest thing encompassing baseball off the field. End of my sophomore year in college is probably the most fun I've ever had playing, just because of everything that was happening. So I'd say it's first and then best.
For sure. That's good. That's great. Yeah, I like that one.
Anything stand out from your college time, like on the field?
I guess the biggest thing that stood out there was I want to say dynamic, like the people. It was, I still talk to all of them almost every day now. That was the best part. I think leaving a year early and then having to keep up with them was, I don't even want to say good and bad, but it was seeing that entire group together and seeing me miss out on that kind of showed how much that I not necessarily missed it, but enjoyed it while I had it for the first 3 years. So like you can say the on-field stuff was a lot of fun. You can say seeing my development and progression as a player was the big thing, but I'd say the group that we had made Davidson baseball what it was. That's the thing I'm probably most grateful for out of my 3 years there. Like it doesn't matter if it's people in my class, below, above, whether they're playing pro ball or working a 9 to 5 now. I'm still talking to a lot of them. So that's the biggest thing that I am grateful for and take away from my 3 years at Davidson.
That's awesome.
Listen up, Reds fans. If you're repping the Cincinnati Reds this season, you need your drink just as cold as your takes. Introducing Frost Buddy, the world's first and only universal can cooler. Say goodbye to switching between coolers like you're rotating pitchers. Frost Buddy fits every 12-ounce can, slim can, 12-ounce bottle, and 16-ounce cans and bottles as well. All in one. No more guessing, no more swapping. Just grab it and go. And here's the game changer. Turn it into a tumbler by adding their 100% leak-proof coffee lid. That's right. From first pitch to morning commute, Frost Buddy's got you covered. So whether you're tailgating, watching from the couch, or celebrating a Reds win, this is the only cooler you'll need. Grab your favorite team's Frost Buddy now and keep it cold all season long. So you're born in Boston. Are you a Sox fan? Who was your favorite player growing up, or was the Red Sox your favorite team?
I grew up a Red Sox fan. You kind of have to. If you don't grow up a Red Sox fan in Boston, it's not a great look. So that whole David Ortiz, Jason Varitek, Dustin Pedroia, Manny Ramirez, that group back when Francona was in Boston was like my little squad. Seeing Francona with us now is a little surreal for my family more than me, surprisingly, just because of how much weight his name holds in Boston, and it did when I was growing up and getting into baseball. So that's something that's kind of cool to be a part of now, more for my family than me. But that like early 2010s, late 2000s core of Red Sox players is who I grew up idolizing. And then the Francona World Series and seeing him win growing up kind of built the love for baseball that I have today. It really started with those core teams, those World Series, the success with all sports in Boston. Like you had to be a sports fan, you had to play sports growing up there, and that's where it all started.
Nice, nice. Any players that you model your game after, or kind of look up to aspire to?
I wouldn't say look up to or necessarily model my game after. I know there's similarities with a bunch of stuff, but I mean, I'm also weirdly unique with baseball with what I do, so it's kind of hard to model a lot of the stuff that I'm able to create out there. Like I don't think there's many people who are catching game one and then the next day they're out in the outfield and the day after that they're at first base. Like the closest similarity you can find to that's probably like a Dalton Varsho.
Yeah.
And then offensively, I wouldn't necessarily say I model myself after anybody. Like there's obviously swing comparison that goes into a lot of swing development. A lot of that happened this offseason. So guys like Cal Raleigh, Michael Bush were some of the guys we looked at that have swing similarities to me. And also similar offensive results. So I'd say if there's anybody that has a similar offensive game to me, it's people like that who have plus plate discipline, hit for power, probably strike out a little bit more than they want to. But I wouldn't say I necessarily model or idolize anybody right now just because of how unique my situation is. It's kind of like a pave your own path type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. But still, that's nice company. Cal Raleigh and Varsho, not bad. So
yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Take us back to youth or high school. Like, what type of player were you back then? Like, how did you develop into the player you are up to high school?
Back then, I was extremely undersized, didn't like to swing the bat, would just look at stuff, like just watch pitches. My 8th grade year, my first year playing high school baseball, I think I had 1 hit the entire year. I think I had more walks than I did actual at bats when you look at the stats. I don't know how that happens, but I mean, that's where the plate discipline kind of started. And then as I got older, the power started to show up, and it really kind of, let's say, showed itself around those COVID years, my junior, senior year of high school. Still incredibly undersized, which is why I was a one-offer guy out of high school. Then got to Davidson. Everything started to click. I actually put on 30 pounds in 3 years. Looked like a healthy human being instead of a little stick running around the baseball field. So weirdly, that's why the catching question, I wouldn't say questions, but just like, oh shoot, you're actually a catcher. Stuff started was back in high school when there was an 150-pound kid running back there who looked like he should be on a pitcher's mound or in the outfield. And slowly I started to embrace it a little bit more. And then I got to college and it was a little bit easier once I started to fit the mold a little bit better. But a lot of the traits you see nowadays started really early in my high school career. They showed up then, and then as I started to develop physically, a lot of the newer like power and slug numbers started to show up a little bit more.
Okay, nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you kind of like a 2-part question. How did were you always a catcher starting out? Like was that your first position, and how did you transition to like first base and outfield? And then how has that been as a whole?
So I've always been a catcher. That's been since I started playing baseball, even before I remember, it's been catching. The outfield stuff was more starting in high school because, I mean, I was always a plus athlete, so throw me out there, let me track down some baseballs, run after some stuff. Uh, First base didn't start until this year. So, like, I still joke with people. I played 5 games of first base in my career ever, and all of them been this year. Uh, but then catching and outfield was mainly what I did growing up. In college, I played center field and caught. So that's a weird duo right there, but that was never something I had to learn or pick up. Like I've always just had a like natural calling to both those spots. But then first base was something I worked on last year off the field. Never really got to play it in game. We worked on a little bit more in spring training, and then once we got out to Daytona, and then I think I played there once or twice in the past month every week. So I'll play there once or twice a week. Starting to kind of feel comfortable with the position for once, but I wasn't expecting like we weren't really expecting too much. Like it's something that's completely new to me in my career. Like the last time I had played infield before this year was Little League, and then it was just trying to find a spot so I could stay in the lineup, and that's what popped up. So I'll be bouncing every single week going forward between catching the corners in the outfield and then first base.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on your college career a little bit. You hit 270, 10 home runs, 1,000 OPS, over 1,000 OPS. Looking back, how do you, I guess, view your college success, and then what was it like transitioning from college to your pro career?
Yeah, college was statistically was weird. Like the stats don't really, I wouldn't even say paint the full picture, but don't kind of represent me in the way I wanted to be perceived. Um, like the power numbers are there, the on base percentage was there, but then I think a lot of the other numbers were not living up to what I wanted to. And so coming into pro ball, I felt like I still had more to prove. Obviously, mid-major guy going in the 6th round is still really impressive for a lot of standards, especially with the stats I put up. But I think a lot of that was based on pure potential and outlook, and being very far from my peak at that point, which I think we're starting to see now. But coming into my first year, that first fall, and then the first year last year, I felt like I still had a lot of stuff to prove that like I could hit for average. I wasn't just a home run, strikeout, or walk guy. Like it popped up in college that I had the ability to play a bunch of different positions at an elite level, which I showed flashes of in college, but didn't really excel at. Kind of showing that I was the complete player that I knew I could be, but the stats wouldn't show that. The only thing that kind of hinted at that was me going so high in the draft as a mid-major guy with underwhelming stats for what should be in that position.
You played center field as well in college as well, so you played all over the field.
Yeah.
Take us back to the draft process where, we talked to some other players, talk about how like the coaches would have, or they would have scouts kind of come every so often, or you kind of prepare for your scout day. Talk about that a little bit, and then did you have any indication that the Reds were going to draft you on draft day?
So my draft process was, I don't know if it was weird because I don't know what other people experienced, but it really started my fall of my junior year. I would say end of my sophomore year and the fall of my junior year when buzz really picked up and like projections started coming out and preseason stuff starts coming out. And I knew there was a very, very high chance that I was going to get drafted at the end of my junior year. I knew that very early on from a bunch of different scouts or agents talking or stuff that my coach heard or different projection stuff online. So that was never really a concern of mine. Like it didn't matter what game it was. We had 3 or 4 teams in the stands at all times, whether we were playing some random team or whether we were playing South Carolina on the road. There were always teams there to see me, so I was talking to a bunch of scouts pregame every single game. They'd be at practices. So I mean, I got used to that at some point, and that was never really a concern of mine, which kind of helped. I could just go out there and play and not focus on the pro side of it too much, just because I was somewhat used to it at a certain point. But then as the draft stuff started to pick up, we had a list of, I want to say half the league that we knew had me going in that 5 to 7 range, and the Reds were one of them. So then it wasn't necessarily a surprise to see them call because we knew they were one of the fifth. I think it was around 13 to 15 teams that we knew had me in that range. So it was just the first one to call, and that was the Reds. So I wouldn't say it was a surprise. It was not who we thought was going to be the first ones to call, but they were. So they were definitely one of the teams we had on our list, but they weren't at the very top.
Okay. Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
draft day stressful. We I think we interviewed Ryan McChrystal, and he said that he was playing video games when he got the call, so he wasn't even paying attention. And I think Harmon and Kian Vu were like watching the draft with their family and all that. Like, what was your draft?
I wouldn't say it was stressful. We heard a bunch of different stuff on draft day about rumors about me going earlier than I ended up going. So we were very locked into the draft on day 2 specifically. Day 1, I wasn't really expecting much. We were just more watching just to see if any of my friends went or anybody I know went. But then once day 2 came around, I remembered sitting on the couch with computer screen with the draft list, I guess you could say, going on. TV had the actual draft on MLB Network going on. It was mostly my family. A couple of my roommates from college were there, going through it all and just waiting. Thankfully, it happened earlier in the day, so I wasn't waiting for too long. But obviously, there are nerves. Like, it's just there's a lot of uncertainty. We had a general idea of what was going to happen, but the uncertainty aspect of it adds anxiety, nerves, pressure, whatever words you want to put in there. Seeing like certain teams take their catcher earlier than me, and then I'm going to cross them off, being like, not going there. So seeing that list slowly dwindle down until I got the call, and then everything was fine after that. I'm really happy the call came earlier in the day than later, because then sitting there just waiting and waiting and waiting is never fun.
That's fair. Very fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're in low A in Daytona, Florida State League. It's fairly noted that we talked pre-show about how hard it is to hit there. What has been your biggest takeaway from the Florida State League as a whole? You had mentioned that Ty Doucette has kind of had some bad luck just hitting the ball hard to center field. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's very known that the Florida State League is not easy to hit in, just because of weather, ballpark, whatever you want to put in there. The pitching is not easy, even though it's low A, for a majority of different reasons. I think we've had a lot of guys that are learning that this year, and it's frustrating, but it's more out of their control than they realize. But I think what a lot of people here have started to figure out, and we're starting to do, and you're starting to see, is understanding just the idea of executing what you need to execute and not really feeding into the hardships that come with hitting in this league. And so guys that you see have success, whether that's with us, whether that's with other teams in this league, have a very good understanding of their process, their approach, their plan, and the ability to commit to that and execute that at a very high rate. And I think that's where you see guys in this league have success. Like I said, there are a couple guys on our team that I know are doing a really good job of that, and it's showing. It happened last year too. I see it with guys on other teams talking to other teams in this league. And I think that's what separates those guys hitting 250 plus, which is as weird as it sounds, really, really good for this league, and those guys hitting sub 200 like I did last year. And I think, like, even for me, that's a separator from this year and last year. And I think you see that with a lot of guys just because of how explosive the pitching is, how humid it is, and the ball gets caught up in the sky every single night you play. These ballparks are spring training parks, so they're bigger than I want to say a lot of minor league parks that I played at least. I know Daytona is a little bit smaller, but I mean that wind's howling in every night, so I think that's a majority of it. The elements don't help hitters, but there's ways that you can work around it. And I think the guys who understand that and do it to a high level, it really shows, and it's a night and day difference for some guys.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I believe also you have even splits against right-handers and left-handers. That's something you really focused on in the off season to work on, or is it something that, or what do you think is attributing to your success against both lefties and righties?
Yeah, I've been somewhat vocal about this, that I don't try and have that, like, I don't focus on left-handed versus right-handed, but I think the reasoning for that is, in a weird way, I'm more uncomfortable hitting off lefties, but that means I have to be so much more focused and honed in on my approach against lefties just because of the lack of comfort. And I think that's why I see more success there than the typical lefty might. But I don't think I've ever focused on hitting lefties or hitting righties in the off season. It's more putting myself in the best position to hit everything that I could face throughout the course of a season. But it's weird. I've always known that I've been better at hitting lefties than it feels like I am in my head. Like, I've always been like, shoot, we got a lefty today. This is not going to be fun. And then I go out there and it's 2 for 3 with a double. I'm like, okay, we got a righty tomorrow. I get to feel a little bit more comfortable. That's always been a thing for me, especially I know in college, that's how it felt. I was like, I don't feel comfortable against lefties, but I'm slugging 800 against them right now. So something's going right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of success, you've got, a lot of extra base hits. You got 6 home runs, 2 triples, 11 doubles, got 6 stolen bases this year. What's been the biggest, I guess, biggest takeaway from that? And then also, what would you think your goals are for the rest of the season?
My biggest takeaway, and it's something I kind of sucked at this past week, is just slowing the game down and understanding my approach, like I talked about earlier, that you have to do in this league. That's something that I worked on this off season that I really bought into, and I think it showed early in the season. I didn't do a great job of that last week, and you can kind of see the disparity of it. I wouldn't say it was a bad week by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there's a clear night and day difference. So I think plan, like, approach, sticking to that, trust in my ability, my training, you could say, everything that I've done in the past year to overhaul me as a player is the big differentiator there. And I think that's the reason that the slugging numbers are there, along with, like, the average this year. I think the slugging was there. I think the slugging was there last year a little bit. I might be wrong. I'd say that might have been a little bit more luck based, but the overall consistency of it is just coming down to trust and my ability and my plan of attack. And I think that shows with how I play the game this year. I think I've been able to feel it and see it. I don't know how easy it is to see from an outside lens, just because, I don't know, I'm in my head at all times. But then I think that carries into the goals for this year. Jokingly, I came into spring training say I wanted to get 20, 20, and 20. That looked like a very easy goal coming into this year, but I don't know. I got to get some more balls up into the wind to get those 20 home runs. But the doubles and stolen bases, I'm not really too concerned about. Those come in waves, but this Florida State League will eat some fly balls every time you hit them. So I think that's more luck based. then I think it shows. Especially the last 3 weeks. I think I have I want to say 3 or 4 balls hit over 105 that didn't leave. Wasn't too happy about that, but they turned into doubles, which helps our 20-20-20. So I think that's a lot of luck based, but the entire approach thing is the biggest change for me this year. I think that's shown. I'm really proud of that change. I know I wasn't great last week, but we're gonna try and hone back in on that tomorrow and carry it with me.
Yeah, I guess as far as a whole, I mean, if you get the Dayton, if you're going to count the 20-20-20 as a whole 2026 thing, you might get those 20 playing with Dayton.
I still remember taking BP in college in Dayton, and the ball jumps there, so that would be nice, but we'll see. I don't know. I've had success against Jupiter this year, so hopefully that goes. I think half my home runs are against this team, and the 9 games we played off of them, so we'll see.
Hey.
Facing the same pitchers for a second straight year, always better.
Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds like a good week coming. We'll be glad to check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really appreciative of your time. I know might have a little bit of time crunch, so we just got, I think, one more question for you before we kind of sign off for this. Kind of just our last ending question and whatnot. You being a part of the Cincinnati Reds organization, do the Cincinnati Reds win in our lifetime?
I hope so. I mean, the pitching right now is nuts.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens at the deadline. I know they need to go get an outfielder. That's the talk right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so. They have the pieces to do it. I don't know how the front office stuff works. I just go out there and play, but I think it's not a lack of talent, especially on the pitching side. So I won't count it out at all. Hopefully the Dodgers stop spending $1 billion every offseason and give other teams a chance. We'll see what happens with this new CBA this year.
True.
But the talent's definitely there. I mean, if they want to hold on to guys like Sal and Ellie and Burns, keep them around for a while, build around that. Never count it out.
Yeah, for sure. And then, and the guy at the helm, Tito, your family and you have seen.
Yeah, no, trust me, I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
It's in there.
In Boston, where they win for 98 years or something like that. So
it's doable. If there's a guy to do it, he's your guy.
For sure. Yeah, we can agree to that for sure. But yeah, again, thank you so much, Mr. Jacob Friend, for coming on the program. We appreciate your time and answering our questions. But yeah, we always also try to sign off every single podcast by saying, "Go Reds."
Go Reds, baby.
Go Reds.